In the wake of a high-stakes meeting between United States President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, a powerful and unified message has emanated from European capitals. Leaders from the continent's major powers have unequivocally pledged their steadfast support for Ukraine, making it clear that diplomatic engagement with Moscow will not come at the cost of Kyiv's sovereignty or territorial integrity. Following a detailed briefing from President Trump on the nature of his discussion with the Russian leader, French President Emmanuel Macron, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, alongside European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, issued a joint declaration of solidarity. The statement, a carefully crafted piece of diplomatic communication, underscore a collective European resolve to continue and even escalate the pressure on Russia to end its military campaign. The leaders expressed a cautious welcome for President Trump's initiative to open a direct channel of communication with Putin, acknowledging the importance of dialogue in de-escalating the conflict. However, they were firm in their position that any potential peace agreement must be acceptable to Ukraine and must be forged with the full participation of the Ukrainian government. The principle that Ukraine alone has the right to determine its own future was a central theme of their messages, a direct rebuttal to any notion that a peace plan could be imposed upon it by outside powers. This European consensus highlights a commitment to international law and the inviolability of national borders, a cornerstone of the post-World War II global order that Russia's actions have directly challenged. The leaders signaled their readiness to participate in a proposed trilateral summit involving President Trump and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, viewing it as a potentially constructive next step, provided it is approached on the basis of Ukrainian established peace formula and its core security interests. The diplomatic unity being projected by Europe is being reinforced by a tangible and escalating campaign of military and financial support for Ukraine. The continent's commitment has evolved significantly from the initial phases of the conflict. The strategy has pivoted from primarily donating existing military stockpiles to a more sustainable, long-term approach focused on directly funding new arms production for Ukraine through large-scale defense industry contracts. This strategic shift is designed to ensure a continuous and predictable flow of essential military hardware to the Ukrainian frontline, while also stimulating Europe's own defense industrial base. This mobilization of European industry is a clear signal to Moscow that the continent is preparing for a protracted conflict and will not allow Ukraine's defense capability to be attrited over time. Recent figures show that European nations have collectively surpassed the United States in their commitments to fund weapons manufacturing for Kyiv, a testament to the continent's growing role as the primary arsenal for Ukrainian defense. This sustained industrial effort is critical for delivering on the large volume of aid that has been promised and for ensuring that Ukraine can not only defend itself, but also build the capacity for future offensive operations to reclaim its territory. The financial backing for this military effort is substantial and continues to grow. Germany, under the leadership of Chancellor Friedrich Merz, has taken a leading role, recently committing a military aid package valued in the billions of euros. This package includes advanced air defense systems, armored vehicle, and critical ammunition, addressing some of Ukraine's most pressing battlefield needs. Other European nations have followed suit with significant contributions. Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Denmark have all announced new multi-hundred million euro pledge, while the United Kingdom, under Prime Minister Keir Starmer, continues its robust program of both equipment supply and comprehensive training for tens of thousands of Ukrainian troops on British soil. The coordination of this aid is being streamlined through various international frameworks, including initiatives within NATO, to ensure that the support is delivered efficiently and targets Ukrainians' most urgent operational requirements. Beyond direct military hardware, the financial pressure on Russia is a key pillar of the European strategy. The European Union member states and their allies have collectively provided a staggering amount of financial, military, and humanitarian assistance to Ukraine since the beginning of the war, with the total sum exceeding $100 billion. A significant portion of this aid has been delivered in the form of non-repayable grants and in-kind support, designed to keep the Ukrainian state and economy functioning amidst the devastation of war. Where loans have been provided, they have been on highly consensual terms, ensuring that Ukrainian is not settled with unmanageable debt as it fights for its survival. A particularly innovative and impactful element of this economic strategy is the decision by the G7 nations and the European Union to leverage the profits generated by frozen Russian sovereign assets. This landmark agreement allows for the extraordinary revenues from these immobilized funds to be used to back substantial loans and provide direct military funding for Ukraine. This policy effectively repurposed Russia's own state wealth to finance the defense of the nation it invaded, creating a powerful mechanism for sustained support that does not rely solely on European taxpayer funds. This financial tool is expected to unlock billions of dollars for Ukraine's budget, its military procurement programs, and its eventual reconstruction. In parallel, the European Union is relentlessly tightening its sanctions regime against Moscow. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has confirmed that a 19th package of sanctions is being finalized and will be introduced in the coming weeks. The objective of these new measures is to further degrade Russia's capacity to finance and supply its war machine. The new sanctions are expected to target loopholes in existing measures, crack down on third country entities that assist Russia in circumventing sanctions, and further restrict Moscow's access to technologies and revenues that fuel its aggression. The cumulative effect of the 18th preceding sanctions package is already being felt across the Russian economy, and the forthcoming measures are intended to intensify that pressure, with the ultimate goal of compelling the Kremlin to conclude that the costs of continuing its war are unsustainable. The diplomatic activity is set to intensify with a crucial meeting scheduled at the White House. President Zelensky will travel to Washington, but he will not be alone. In a powerful demonstration of transatlantic and European unity, he will be accompanied by an influential delegation of European leaders. The presence of French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and Finnish President Alexander Stubb, along with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, is designed to send an unambiguous message. This united front aims to ensure that discussion about the future of the conflict are framed by the principle of unwavering support for Ukraine. European leaders are determined to prevent a scenario where President Zelensky might face undue pressure to accept a peace deal that compromises Ukraine's long-term security or its territorial integrity. Their collective presence is intended to amplify Ukraine's voice and to ensure that any negotiations with Russia are conducted from a position of strength, backed by a united and resolute alliance. A central focus of these high-level discussions will be the architecture of future security guarantees for Ukraine. European leaders have warmly received President Trump's declared willingness to support Article 5-like security commitments for Kyiv from a coalition of the willing. This concept, which mirrors the collective defense clause at the heart of the NATO alliance, is seen as a significant breakthrough, directly address Ukraine's fundamental need for reliable long-term security assurance that can deter future Russian aggression. The European Union has expressed its full readiness to be an active and central participant in providing such guarantees. The consensus in European capital is that a post-conflict Ukraine must possess the military capability to defend its sovereignty without any externally imposed limitations on the size or capabilities of its armed force or its freedom to form defense partnership with other nations. This vision of a strong, self-reliant Ukraine capable of defending itself is seen as the most effective guarantee of a lasting peace. The concept of robust security guarantees is intrinsically linked to the broader European strategy of transforming Ukraine into a formidable military power. What President von der Leyen has described as a steel porcupine, the idea is to make Ukraine so well-armed, trained, and technologically advanced that it would be, in her words, indigestible to any potential aggressor. This strategy is being realized through a multi-pronged effort that includes long-term commitments for military aid, the development of Ukraine's domestic defense industry through joint venture with European companies, and deep intelligence sharing and cooperation. This is not seen as an alternative to a negotiated peace, but as a necessary precondition for it. The belief is that a strong Ukraine is better positioned to negotiate a just peace and to deter Russia from future adventurism. This approach is also viewed as a pragmatic way to provide Ukraine with its security needs, potentially serving as a bridge to its eventual membership in NATO, an aspiration that European leaders continue to support despite Russia's staunch opposition. The path toward Ukraine's full integration into the European Union is another critical component of this long-term security vision. The EU accession process is seen not just as an economic and political project, but as a powerful security guarantee in itself. By anchoring Ukraine firmly within the European family of nations, the EU aims to create a zone of stability and prosperity that will make a future conflict less likely. While welcoming President Trump's diplomatic initiatives, European leaders remain clear-eyed about the challenges ahead. They continue to insist that any negotiations must be grounded in the principles of the United Nations Charter and must not legitimize or reward Russia's aggression. The European position is firm that Russia cannot be allowed to have a veto over Ukraine's sovereign choices, including its aspiration to join the European Union or NATO. The joint statement issued after the Trump-Putin meeting was a masterclass in this balanced approach, extending an openness to dialogue while reinforcing the non-negotiable principle that underpin European security. The statement acknowledged the urgent need for a ceasefire to halt the bloodshed, but stressed that a durable peace requires a comprehensive settlement that addresses the root cause of the conflict and establishes a secure and stable future for Ukraine. This requires the complete withdrawal of Russian forces from all of Ukraine's sovereign territory, the grim reality on the ground, where Russian forces continue to launch nightly missiles and drone attacks against Ukrainian cities and infrastructure, serve as a constant and brutal reminder of the urgency of these efforts. This ongoing aggression fuels skepticism among some European officials about Moscow's true intention, with concerns that President Putin may be using the prospect of negotiations as a tactic to buy time, rearm his force, and sow divisions among Ukraine's allies. This cautious outlook reinforced the European strategy of negotiating from a position of strength by maintaining maximum pressure on Russia while simultaneously exploring every viable path to a diplomatic solution. In preparation for the critical meetings in Washington, European leaders have been engaged in intensive coordination, holding a series of video conferences to harmonize their position and develop a shared strategy. The primary goal is to present a completely unified front and to clearly articulate their red lines to their American partners. This includes an absolute rejection of any peace proposal that would require Ukraine to cede territory to Russia. The Ukrainian government, led by President Zelensky, has been equally resolute on this point, repeatedly stating that the Ukrainian people will never accept the loss of their land and that any acceleration of the country's internationally recognized 1991 borders is a constitutional impossibility. Reports of potential land for peace arrangements have been met with swift and forceful condemnation from both Kyiv and its European partners, who view such a concession as a dangerous precedent that would only embolden future acts of aggression. The commitment to Ukraine's defense is also fostering deeper integration within Europe's own defense sector. The strategic move toward procuring military aid through new industry contracts is having a transformative effect, revitalizing and expanding Europe's defense manufacturing capabilities. This not only provides a more reliable and sustainable source of support for Ukraine, but also enhances Europe's own security and strategic autonomy in an increasingly uncertain world. The innovative financial instrument being deployed, like the loan mechanism backed by profits from frozen Russian assets, are creating new and resilient streams of funding to support Ukraine's immense financial need. From covering its budget deficit to funding the monumental task of reconstruction that lies ahead, as the interwoven strands of military, economic, and diplomatic action continues to unfold. The overarching message from Europe is one of unshakable and long-term commitment. The pledge to stand by Ukraine and to maintain relentless pressure on Russia is not merely a political declaration. It is a comprehensive and actively implemented strategy. The upcoming summit in Washington represents a pivotal moment, a test of transatlantic resolve and a crucial juncture that will reshape the future trajectory of the conflict. The powerful image of European leaders standing shoulder to shoulder with President Zelensky at the White House is a deliberate and potent symbol. It communicates to the world that Ukraine is not fighting alone, and that any just and lasting peace must be built upon the foundations of international law, respect for sovereignty, and a credible, ironclad security framework for Ukraine and for the entire European continent. The collective determination of these nations is a direct response to the profound stakes of the conflict, which they see as a defining struggle not just for the future of Ukraine, but for the very principle of the rules-based international order. The path to peace remains uncertain and filled with obstacles, but the unified stance of European leaders offers a clear and consistent beacon of support, signaling that their commitment to a free, independent, and secure Ukraine will not waver. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, and so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed, and that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to World Global Conflict, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first one's on me. But if you have watched this show before, it's like you are freeloaded now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build this show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.